Small interruption. What about going to see Mr. Thomas? Said Lucy. He's the nice fawn I told you about. Everyone agreed to this, and off they went, walking briskly and stamping their feet. Lucy proved a good leader. At first, she wondered whether she would be able to find the way, but she recognized an old-looking tree on one place, and a stump in another, and brought them on to where the ground became uneven, and into the little valley at last at the very door to Mr. Thomas's cave. But there was a terrible surprise that awaited them. The door had been wrenched off its hinges and broken into bits. Inside the cave was dark and cold, and had the damp feel and smell of a place that had not been lived in for several days. Snow had drifted in from the doorway and was heaped on the floor, mixed with something black, which turned out to be charred sticks and ashes from a fire. Someone had apparently flung it about in the room and stamped it out. The crockery lay smashed on the floor, and the picture of the fawn's father had been slashed into shreds with a knife. This is a pretty good washout, said Edmund. Not much good coming here. What is this? Said Peter, stooping down. He had noticed a piece of paper which had, by the way, that's the look of it, which, very, very sad, had been nailed through the carpet to the floor. Is there anything written on it? asked Susan. Yes, there is, answered Peter, but I can't read it in this light. Let's get out into the open air. They all went out into the daylight and crowded round Peter as he read out the following words. The former occupant of these premises, the Fawn Thomas, is under arrest and awaiting his trial on a charge of high treason against Her Imperial Majesty Jadis, Queen of Narnia, Chatelaine of Cair Paravel, Empress of the Lone Islands, etc. Also of comforting her said Majesty's enemies, harboring spies and fraternizing with humans. Signed, Morgram, Captain of the Secret Police. Long live the Queen. The children stared at each other. I don't know what I'm going to like this place after all, said Susan. Who is this Queen, Lou? Said Peter. Do you know anything about her? She isn't a real queen at all, answered Lucy. She's a horrible witch. The White Witch. Everyone, all the wood people, hate her. She has made an enchantment all over the whole country, so that it is always winter here, never Christmas. I wonder if there's any point in going on, said Susan. I mean, it doesn't seem particularly safe here. And it looks as if it won't be much fun either. And it's getting colder every minute. And we've brought nothing to eat. What about just going home? Oh, but we can't, said Lucy suddenly. Don't you see? We can't just go home, not after this. It is all on my account that the poor fawn has gotten into the trouble. He hid me from the witch and showed me the way back. That's what it means by comforting the Queen's enemies and fraternizing with humans. We simply must rescue him. Or at least try. A lot we could do, said Edmund, when we haven't even got anything to eat. Shut up, you, said Peter, who was still very angry with Edmund. What do you think, Susan? I've a horrid feeling that Lou is right, said Susan. I don't want to go a step further, and I wish we'd never come. But I think we must try to do something for Mr. whatever his name is. I mean the fawn. That's what I feel too, said Peter. I'm worried about having no food with us, though. I'd vote for going back and getting something from the larder Only there doesn't seem to be any certainty of getting into this country again once you've gotten out. I think we'll have to go on. So do I, said both the girls. If only we knew where the poor chap was in prison, said Peter. They were all still wondering what to do next when Lucy said, "Look, there's a robin with such a red breast. It's the first bird I've seen here, I say. I wonder, can birds talk in Narnia? It almost looks as if it wants to say something to us." Then she turned to the robin and said, "Please, can you tell us where Mr. Thomas the Fawn has been taken to?" And as she said this, she took a step forward towards the bird. It at once flew away, but only as far as to the next tree. There it perched and looked at them very hard, as if it understood all they had been saying. Almost without noticing that they had done so, the four children went a step or two nearer to it. At this, the robin flew away again to the next tree, and once more looked at them very hard. You couldn't have found a robin with a redder chest or a brighter eye. "Do you know," said Lucy, "I really believe he means us to follow him." I've an idea he does," said Susan. "What do you think, Peter?" "Well, we might as well try it," answered Peter. The robin appeared to understand the matter thoroughly. It kept on going from tree to tree, always a few yards ahead of them, but always nearer so that they could easily follow. In this way, it led them on, slightly downhill, wherever the robin alighted a little shower. Wherever the robin alighted, a little shower of snow would fall off the branch. Presently the clouds parted overhead, and the winter sun came out, and the snow all around them grew dazzling bright. They had been traveling in this way for about half an hour, with the two girls in front of them, when Edmund said to Peter, "If you're not still too high and mighty to talk to me, I've something to say which you'd better listen to." "What is it?" asked Peter. "Hush, not so loud," said Edmund. "There's no good frightening the girls. But have you realized what we're doing?" "What?" said Peter, lowering his voice in a whisper. "We're following a guide we know nothing about. How do we know which side that bird is on? Why shouldn't it be leading us into a trap?" "That's a nasty idea. Still, a robin, you know. They're good birds in all the stories I've ever read. I'm sure a robin wouldn't be on the wrong side." If it comes to that, which is the right side, how do we know that the fawns are in the right and the queen, yes, I know we've been told she's a witch, is in the wrong? We don't really know anything about either. The fawn saved Lucy. He said he did. But how do we know? And there's another thing too. Has anyone the least idea of the way home from here? "Great Scott," said Peter. "I hadn't thought of that. And no chance of dinner either," said Edmund. There's the picture. And next chapter is chapter 7. A Day with the Beavers.